the session? Okay.
Hi, Danielle. Backstage here to tell you we cannot hear you. It's sure you're saying, there you go. Good to see you.
Thank you,
Let's get started on this show.
Okay, I was just welcoming everybody, saying I was very happy to moderate this afternoon session. You had a very short presentation of TCBL. If you need more information, you can get a lot more on the website. I was just saying that TCBL is an excellent initiative that has been going on for many years now, maybe 10 years. I'm not sure, but we've been involved in the IFM for many years with them, and it's really a process that is currently and is going to go on improving the way the fashion system works, and giving courage and giving support to all the players of all kinds that are interested in this in the transition that needs to be done in the fashion system. So this afternoon we have a session with three major speakers that are going to introduce themselves one by one. Before we go to these presentations, I just wanted to say a few words about the sessions that took place this morning. In case you haven't watched them, I encourage you very much to watch them, because it's been very interesting, and you'll have a short resume, a short summary of these morning presentations by our speakers this afternoon. But if you want to go in more details, you will have a lot more information. And it was extremely interesting to see all these young people, the students or the researchers of several great universities in Europe, in London and in Barcelona especially, how they could really implement very interesting research projects and carry them through, so that now it's just up to the industry to seize them and to deliver them to the public. So maybe we will start presenting the speakers. Should we start with Mariangela, who was not this morning with us, and who maybe some people do not know yet? Mariangela, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Danielle. I am Mariangela Vanga, and I work as an associate professor in cultural economics and entrepreneurship at the Erasmus University in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. I am part of the advisory board in TCBL, and last year I was at the final event in Amsterdam at the She Makes projects. So we are starting also a new project together, which is called Fabrics, and will be launched in January. We received some European funding, And the topic is also very much linked to what we will discuss during the TCBL Days. It's about local manufacturing, circularity, and regenerative textile, and also the role of education in this respect. At the Erasmus, I also work as a DIT academic. We have a platform which is called Design, Impact and Transition. And there we are really challenging the way academia is developing academic masters and programs, how sustainability can be integrated in this bachelor and master, and also how to drive then or accelerate the transitions. And I will tell you a bit more of the minor in fashion that we have and also the master programs. Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you, Mariangela. And maybe Rosie, now you take the floor and you present yourself, and maybe you could give a short summary of the very nice project that were presented by your students this morning, please.
Thank you, Danielle. Yeah, lovely to be here and to be amongst such distinguished speakers and with TCBL. So yeah, my name is Rosie Hornbuckle. I'm senior researcher at University of the Arts London. My research is actually, it's not fashion or textiles, but it's about how design methodologies can enable contexts of complex collaboration. So how do we work together from lots of different perspectives to enable us to address some very complex challenges. I really came into contact with TCBL through the Hereware project, which is an EU-funded textiles systemic materials innovation project, which aims to generate knowledge about how we can transition to a bio-based, circular and local textiles economy. And we've got the whole value chain within the project, more or less. So we've got local stakeholder community through TCBL, but we also have the generation of fibres through bio-based agricultural residues, the fibre spinning, the creation of the textile, the garment design. So we have the whole range of different partners who have very different backgrounds in the project. And what we've done in terms of education within this space is we've provided this opportunity for students on 3 MA courses: MA Fashion Futures, MA Textile Design and MA Service Design, to really situate their practice within these 3 pillars of bio-based, local and circular, and really to explore their own projects. So we haven't limited them. They're able to explore their own projects, but within these spaces which are generated by Hereware, provide access to materials, provide access to expertise, and really to ground what they're doing within something which is really vital and is being explored in the real world.
Yeah, so if I may just interfere a bit, it was very interesting to see that you sort of handpicked students or young researchers from various units within the huge UAL university, so that they didn't know each other probably beforehand, and they could interact and they could learn from each other, and it was already a kind of rich interaction process and synergy.
Yeah, indeed. This is a very so what I try to do when I'm working on my research is I try to find what is going to be the biggest opportunity here for students to interact. How is it going to be enriching? How is it going to be most interesting and to create new things, new ways of doing things for the students? And we've not done this before at UAL. Just to explain what you were just hinting at, UAL has such a broad range of different subjects. It's one of the largest specialist arts and design universities, and it brings together 7 different colleges. So it's vast. It's 79,000 students, something like that. And we also have very international studentship. So we have a lot of people from lots of different backgrounds. And rather than see this as a challenge, I see this as an opportunity. I think we need to start to talk more between the different courses, to collaborate more, to kind of, these were not true collaborations. They were students sort of becoming aware of a different type of practice and bringing sometimes those ideas and enriching their own practice through the exposure to other courses. And yeah, we enabled these students to kind of like come together through the project, which was, yeah, it it was an experiment in itself, but it was really interesting to see how that enriched their experiences. And yeah, just to give a little bit of an overview of those, what those projects were about. So this morning we had Vibeke, who was talking very much about the use of bio-based materials to weave textiles. So almost quite traditional in a way, but she was talking about biophilia and the use of bio-based dyes, which was a lovely project, quite textiles-based.
With a very interesting questions, which was how the aesthetics of natural fibers can impact the adoptability from the consumer, and which is really one issue of the matter, because traditionally we think that what is sustainable is not nice, is not attractive. That was long-term thinking.
Yeah, indeed. She. I suppose the other thing about the MA courses at UAL is they're very research driven. So she had done a lot of background research into biophilia as a particular theoretical construct, and this idea that people become more attracted and build their sense of connection to a textile through the story of the materials that the textile is made from. So her project was also about process. She'd really innovated in the process of how to fix the dyes and how to use the minimum quantity of dye stuff, and how she'd really gone to quite a lot of depth in lots of different areas of that project, and the textile is beautiful. I mean, that's the thing which becomes the most important, but carries everything else that she did. So that was a lovely project. And then we had Gemma, who was looking more at, I think this is the one that you're referring to. She was looking at the secondhand market, and how she'd kind of started out thinking that secondhand market could be integrated into big business, into brands. But through her research project, she'd really come to terms with, actually there's much more that can be arrived at on a local and on a tangible dimension. And so she was looking, her user research was really fascinating. So she'd started to engage people and really try to understand how people value secondhand clothes. So where do they find that value? What is that value?
And from a marketing point of view, that's extremely it's really a challenging question. And she seemed to conclude that maybe the best storytelling that can be done about these products could be done by the houses themselves, by the brands, the initial brands themselves, which is quite question mark. Are they going to catch this opportunity, or it was really very, very appealing.
Yeah, I think she hasn't finished her research yet, so she's still exploring these 5 different possible scenarios by which the second-hand market evolves, and I think there are a couple of kind of insights that she's come to which would be really fascinating to explore in greater depth. So yeah, that was a really nice project, and really very different, of course, to what Vibeke was looking at. And then we had Iona, who was much more interested in how play can be used to engage people in the topics of fashion waste, and how she did quite a lot of research that maybe didn't come through the presentation with geology, like how is fashion going to actually impact geological change, and she was looking at, for example, the terrestrial microfiber pollution as well as the ocean, the aquatic microfiber pollution. So that was really interesting and a completely different approach. So it was quite a contrast to the others. I'm going to speed up a little bit because I know we're coming to.
Yeah. I just wanted to maybe break a little bit this start, because I think it would be very interesting also to have Petra's comments on the presentations that you're summing up. And it was my fault. Sorry, I didn't introduce you, Petra, but you are the one of the 3 great speakers that we have this afternoon, and I would very much like to have your comments when we come to speak to this particular project or that we have this morning. So could you just for the time being tell us who you are, and then feel free to interact with Rosie when she presents the project that we've seen this morning, and then you will present the project that you've discussed, that you've presented this morning, your students presented from Fab Academy, and we can go on with the discussion like that. Okay? Sorry, it's a bit messy, but we'll get everything.
No, perfect. Thank you so much for the introduction, and I'm very glad to be here to join you for this roundtable and this interesting discussion about education and the textiles. I think it's very important to brainstorm a little bit about it together. So my name is Petra Garajova, and I'm a Slovak architect and a designer based in Barcelona. Currently, I'm working at Fab Lab Barcelona as a Fabricademy local instructor. I've been working with wool fibers and material research in last 3 years probably. And right after the studies, I participated in Fabricademy project first as a student, and after that, I started working for Fab Lab as a local instructor. So this morning we saw a couple of students from different years of Fabricademy. So Fabricademy, this was, if I'm not wrong, the 7th year of Fabricademy. It was happening in the Fab Lab Barcelona because Fabricademy is very intense 6 months international program that combines hands-on learning, open source knowledge, digital manufacturing, material research, and it tackles different topics about sustainability and the fashion sector. So and then Fabricademy is also related, for example, to the TCBL through SheMakes project. Then Anastasia explained a little bit about Transitions European project that is currently going on and is developing different methodologies and practices for the fashion students and innovators. And then we also have Fab Textiles. It was co-founded in Fab Lab Barcelona and incubated at DAIAC. That was the very first textile lab in Fab Labs. So we could have seen the students this morning explaining a little bit about all of these topics around Fabricademy. So there was, for example, Anna, that I think we discussed in the first...
Maybe we should finish with the list of
I just wanted to connect to Rosie's students that we discussed this morning.
Fine. That's fine.
I saw some similarities between the students and the projects that they are working on. So it would be nice to have them all together, for example. So now we can go more into the specific projects if you want.
Okay, so don't hesitate to react to what Rosie is presenting. She's just summing up the morning sessions projects. Thank you, Rosie, for going on.
No worries. I think that Petra, we saw quite a lot of alignment, didn't we, Petra, between the two groups of presentations, which is really interesting in itself. So the two remaining ones that I hadn't mentioned was you, and she was looking at digital manufacturing and how it can be used to enable the sort of modular. The creation of modular textiles that can be kind of customizable, replaceable, repairable. And she was using PLA film, I think it was a film, to do these experiments. And it was very playful, very about form, but also kind of exploring the limits of the material, which was really interesting and completely different. That's one of the things that I've loved about this project, is just how different all of the different projects have been.
And which was also remarkable was that she was putting all of her Chinese culture and all the roofing style, the hooks, the everything, which was it was really obvious in the patterns that she showed, that she's mixing this Chinese traditional architectural culture and the textile passion that she has. So I don't know what you thought about that, Petra, but that was really impressive.
No. I think she embedded the technology and the culture. I think they aligned very well. And also we discussed the material possibilities, maybe what she can use then in the future, how to, because we also know that PLA it's maybe better material, but it's still not completely biodegradable. So it has some pros and cons for sure. But I would love to see it also for example, the different materials. So I think she will develop the project further for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's been interesting about the students situating their work in Hereware is that they've thought a bit more about some of the topics that they might not have otherwise. So this idea of local, although China is not local to London. She was really exploring what local meant to her, and her way of exploring that was to bring in the culture. And I think we've done that in Hereware as well. We've really explored like how can local become really relevant to people and really, really important and meaningful. And she exemplified that through her approach, which was lovely to see. And then I think the final one was Katie. And I suppose Katie might be the most obvious comparison perhaps to Fab Lab, because she was exploring this material-driven approach of taking a waste material and really kind of exploring what she could make with it. But what I loved about Katie's work is that she was using cuttlefish bones. Through the material exploration, she had to kind of navigate some really actually difficult questions, about scale, which was where some of these questions about scale came in. Also from from an ethical, from a moral perspective, should she be that there's loads of cuttlefish bones that come out of the fishing industry, for example. Does she want to engage with that? She really not struggled, but kind of felt like she wanted to leave that behind, and so she had much more of an experiential approach to how she sourced the material. She was connected to the part of the beach, very, very local, really specific. The part of the beach that she collected those materials from, and how she. And she treated those materials in a very delicate and considerate way, which was really, I think, moved beyond what she could have done with it. So it was really, really nice to see.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot, one of the students of Fabricademy from last year, that she was also working with the seaweed. And she had completely different approach to the material. So even the final outcome, it was very sensitive. Like she made a very nice video of like sourcing the material, cleaning it, like taking care, and then turning it into a product. So I think that I saw the same engagement to the material and to the research. Like she was reflecting a little bit her personality into that, and maybe that was the important part of it. Like to try to take care of like what is around you, like how you treat it, what do you do with it, like, and then also like how to recycle it, because I mean we talk a lot about the biomaterials, like how they are made, but we also have to think about the end life of the material, like what to do with it again. Like, am I able to turn it into something new again, or is it like as unsustainable as any other different material?
It was also very close, I think, to Anna Kane's project, because the way, not project itself, but the way she speaks of living together with another species, which happens to be silkworms, which is not really, it's not apes, it's worms. But the way she handles it and she presents it, that her project was really metamorphosing, she called it, I think. It was quite interesting in this in this way of respecting nature and really living with nature. It sort of reminded me of this fabulous film, which is My Octopus Teacher. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's
it's on Netflix.
Yeah, it's fabulous. So maybe Petra, you can go on. I think we've seen your projects, the project of your students, Rosie. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. So Petra, can you go on with the ones that were presented this morning?
Oh yeah, so then about Anna and Morphosyn is that she really created her own like small cycle, like economy, that how to live with the organism itself, but also how to produce the textiles, how to recycle them, how to use them, and how to turn them into a life again, or how to turn it at the end also in a product. So she adapted basically the living into working, or it's somehow like creating this some symbiosis like between them. And I think it's very interesting. And also the thing that she's working with a living organism. It's not like somewhere like recycled material or just like found randomly in nature. So it's something what is really living. So I remember her leaving from the studio to go home to feed the silkworms, what is something completely different, but we are not expecting to feed the fabrics or the textiles to really produce them. on the other hand, there was also a nice project, I think, of last year, but he didn't present this morning. He was trying to also 3D print, for example, the textiles with the bacteria cellulose that comes from kombucha, SCOBY. And this was another approach of like using like something living and turning it into the textiles as well. So I think these new approaches are very necessary to be made, and to understand also like from the, I would say, like human perspective, to consider them and as a technique, as a process. So this was, for example, one. Then also there was, for example, Anna. She also like been working with mycelium. So her final
feeding fungi or mushrooms.
Yes, exactly. So this is another way of like feeding some organisms. So she was using the mycelium to recycle different kind of fabrics, because some of the myceliums like kinds, they can digest plastics. So, and actually she was kind of, I think, trying to solve the issue with the mycelium, that the leather mycelium materials are kind of not so resistant. So by eating these plastics particles of the fabrics, the mycelium is getting very leatherish parameter or like characteristics. So she started from a petri dish, and now she's got her PhD to develop the research basically further, and she got also awarded by the Young Scientist Award for these 3 months on the research that is kind of difficult, I think, to make these biological experiments in a DIY biolab, what is also like a different perspective. And I think we are again overlapping a little bit with Rosie. So this kind of new labs or biolabs, they are brand new at the universities, because usually they are adapted to the conditions that are very scientific for the people like who studied biology for a long time, or at least for a couple of years. And then there are designers who are trying to approach these new ways of designing, like understanding like what is biology or what is chemistry, and they are like collaborating with the different experts to also gain a new knowledge on something else that probably they can implement in their own research. And I think that was something that I was actually lacking when I was a student, that in this way, as the education is designed now, is not, they don't have these new branches of collaborating with the different experts or different areas at the same time. What I really like about the program is that it's trying to implementing more and more of these methodologies. Then on the other hand, there was also Laura Civetti, that she started as a 3D designer. Basically, she learned how to use parametric design, generative tools, and 3D modeling. And then slowly she started implementing in the fashion. And now over the years, because she was one of the very first students of Fabricademy, she completely shifted her approach, but not so much. It was more like probably moving from one thing to another, and now she's trying to combine both like the parametric design also with the biomaterials, and to try to see like if one can help each other in the design processes. What I think it's very important then for adapting it for the 3D printing, right? Because then you have different materials, you have different machines, different designs. So everything needs different parameters and the setups to be done, and also different knowledge, right? So there are machines like 3D knitting that we can't manipulate with it so easily. So we need a deep knowledge on that.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I have a question for the three of you, actually, knowing that your fields are quite different. Is it difficult to find students or to kind of raise demand for that kind of issues which involve sustainability and innovation? Maybe Mariangela, you can start with this. What are the key success factors, or what are the conditions?
Yeah, thanks, Danielle. I think it's an important question. As I mentioned before, we don't have. We are not a design school or an environmental science, so all these experiments, I would have loved to do it myself. I wanted to study biotechnologies a long time ago, but somehow I find myself back into the fashion through another channel. what I notice is that students, especially in the last 5 years, are more interested and curious about what's happening around them. So I would say that maybe 10 years ago, for example, very little number of students would be interested in topics of gentrification, social exclusion. I mean, something that they could not probably observe around their own environment. And instead, in the last, I would say 3 or 4 years, and we are a social science university, I noticed that students, actually the majority go to second-hand shops, are more careful about their choices. There have been also some protests in the Netherlands, in the university, to push the university to be more sustainable in terms of even a vegan campus. So they have become more vocal and radical. And if I think of 5 years ago, in a class of 30 students, maybe only 1 or 2 went to a second-hand shop, for example, and the majority said that they never enter one. And then the last years, it's almost the opposite. I see that they are now craving for engaging in education that give them the possibility to experiment. So a designer or a biologist will experiment in the lab. We have some sort of city lab or experiment in the sense that we can do intervention. So in our we launched last September a master which is called Societal Transitions, and the students, instead of writing a usual thesis like a solo work, they will work in teams, and they will develop an intervention probably in the city or connected to a company or a challenge, and they are guided through the entire year in order to make it feasible, and then reflect on what they meant for them, for the stakeholders involved, and so on. But to do so, we cannot leave, I would say, the students alone. So maybe in a fashion school or in a lab, you constantly have that interaction with the students. I mean, that's how I imagine, like lab, it's a small place. And so the students have the privilege to get experts or peers always there for them to give feedback. In a economics faculty or business administration, sometimes you have 200 students and they never have the possibility to interact with the lecturer, or they don't have a space to ask questions or debate. So what we are trying to do is actually to create different programs where students from economics, business administration, also environmental sciences, technical universities, former designers, or they can actually work together. And in 1 year, they can really be trained to be curious and respectful of other disciplines and other knowledges, and really develop also personally, like what is my skill, and also in terms of leadership, self-reflection. So we are also trying to develop some sort of tracks along the master that allow them to write diaries. So what does it mean to work in sustainability challenges? It's lots of emotions. Many students, after even 8 weeks that I ask them to not to buy anything and reflect, they feel drained. So how do you also help them to deal with uncertainty and change and challenges that they will face every day when they are going to work? So I feel that our responsibility now in academia and schools, it's really to train them to deal with this uncertainty. And I think fashion, arts and culture, creativity are the place where you deal with uncertainty. Nobody knows what will be trendy or fashionable, or you can predict, and the fashion industry is really good in coordinating, like what will be the next color or the future. But still, you have to deal and embrace uncertainty. And I think I really feel that we need to train the future student basically to work with very disparate knowledge and support them in this. So becoming also more coach rather than just lecturers.
Yeah, exactly. It seems that you're helping them grow up and not only teach them. It's quite interesting. So that's for non-designers, and for designers, for Rosie, can you go on?
Yeah, it's really interesting listening to you speak. It's I'm quite envious in a way because we're only an arts and design university. We don't have such an opportunity for the students to kind of work across non-creative disciplines with non-creative disciplines. So we do have we have been kind of developing our approaches. So using the research that myself and some colleagues have on how to enable collaborations. So what you're talking about, it's about a different skill set that we're trying to engender in the students to foster their ability to work in ways which might be different from the conventional way that design is taught or other disciplines are taught. And it's quite a gentle process of trying to bring in some, I mean, it's not that crazy or radical in a way. It's like, how do you work with other people, and how do you care for one another, and how do you compromise, and how do you make things happen? So it's about trying to bring in these different skill sets in a way which supports them, but also complements their program that they're studying on. Because for example, the unit that I'm sort of thinking about while I'm talking is one which brings all of the different design school disciplines together in one unit. So we have 700 students all doing group work together and sort of trying to develop those skills. And exactly as you say, there's that reflective practice, like how do we document or understand or reflect upon or be critical of of that process of working together and actually exploring quite difficult topics. It's also based on climate change. So I really recognize that need, and it's definitely something that we're making moves on in the university. But just to kind of also talk to the original point, which is about whether students are turned on to this topic. I think certainly they are. Like that we don't struggle for students who want to engage in our programs, and UAL has made it priority to embed climate literacy, climate justice, sustainability and social purpose within all of the programs across the whole university. So there is this real agenda, but perhaps maybe that lends itself to the types of students which apply to us. They come expecting, and I think Katie spoke about it this morning, that this was one of the things that she really found incredibly useful, is that we have this guiding principle whereby we are consistently asking students to engage in these topics and consider the environmental impact and consider the more than human implications of what they're proposing through their work. So, yeah, it's interesting. I think it's an interesting picture unfolding, and it's definitely moving in the right direction. Whether it's fast enough is another question.
Yeah, or soon enough in their lives, because maybe it takes place after the 20s, in their 20s, early 20s, maybe before there could have been some work done. But maybe we go on with this question with Petra. Petra, how do you feel about that? Do you have a hard time finding people interested in sustainability and innovation? I guess not, because it's really the focus of your work, your working sphere, isn't it?
I don't think it's so difficult in our case, because FabLab, like the main focus of FabLab, it's like sustainability in general and like follow the SDGs in different principles. So it's more like one thing is to teach them like how to use these different machines and how to make their own biomaterials, like where to source it, how to treat them, how to recycle them. But on the other thing, it's more like how to make them like really apply for something, like how to turn it into a real product. So what we were discussing also this morning with the students was like, if they end up, also I think Anastasia mentioned that during her presentation, that it's mostly bridging the research or that we provide and then the innovation that we teach them into a real world, or how to apply it. So if, for example, they want to get connected with some industry or turn it into real products to apply it, because usually if it's, for example, some bio-based material, it needs to go through a couple of like tests, and then people, they don't understand why it's not so resistant as the plastic one, for example. I mean, this is just like one of the examples. So I think that what we are now focused on more, it's how to engage people to willing to try to do it more in a sustainable way, and how to bridge this gap with the industry to be more related to them. For example, I don't know, start working with them doing the studies already, so they can understand the process of like teaching them and then like also applying it. So this is one of the main focus like right now at the moment, but also not in the fashion sector, but also in general in design field or architecture as well.
Yeah, thank you. One of the very last presentation this morning was Anastasia's Pistofiliou. I'm sorry, I always do harm to her name, but Anastasia was presenting a very interesting research co-funded by the European Union, which was about the actually the system, the lacking in the system, the loopholes, etc. And how did you react? How do you react, Petra and Rosie, to what she presented, or what are your ideas of what is lacking in general in the education of designers and maybe more broadly all the people, all the young professionals which are going to work in the fashion system, to help them be more conscious and more efficient in this transition process? Who wants to start? Mariangela or Rosie? Rosie, go on.
Well, I didn't see Anastasia's talk, so I'm just going to say that first of all. But I think talking to the point of what's kind of missing, I think, well, we mentioned this already. This multidisciplinary space in which we're finding that this is increasingly important because the challenges are complex, but also in having all these different perspectives work together enables new things to happen, right? They more interesting change to what is anticipated. It enables a more holistic view on a particular topic, and therefore hopefully a more impactful and appropriate outcome to a project or a piece of research. But in that case, then I find one of the biggest challenges is bridging or translating the knowledge between these different knowledge areas. So not just for in the learning in the sort of formal learning space, but between industry, between research, between academia, between stakeholders in the community. I think that's one of our biggest challenges, because I think we're all doing great work. We're all furiously and really enthusiastically exploring all of these different options, which is of course necessary and brilliant. But where I find that we all find it difficult is to actually make sense of what the value or benefit of what we're doing, the knowledge, to other stakeholders, to the community, and it's not just the community, it's to policy, so there's these connections, these knowledge flows that need to happen in order for things to change. It's orchestrating. It's like a curation of knowledge flow which needs to happen, and translation through those different varying worldviews, varying approaches, varying languages and cultures. that's what needs to happen, and that's what we need to focus on. And I actually feel that within education, what we can be doing is fostering those types of skills, those translational skills, those boundary spanning skills, which enable people to kind of understand the value of what they're interested in to other people, and be able to translate that knowledge across.
Okay, thank you, Rosie. Mariangela?
Yeah, thank you, Rosie, because I was thinking something that happens, especially because I have students that come from different countries and different disciplines. Sometimes they have, I see that they struggle sometimes to explain when they have a job interview or they want to reach out what they studied, because what we studied is called cultural economics and entrepreneurship. And it's basically challenging the disciplines of economics and entrepreneurship, because culture and creativity and fashion and design are different from the other sector. So what we train them is about applying economic and methodological skills to studying digitalization, I don't know, in the music industry or video games. But because it's something that it's also still niche, in the sense that culture and creative industries are a huge sector, but also those are not the typical sort of jobs that someone knows, like being a lawyer. I mean, I still have to explain to my mom what I do. I think what we are also realizing is that both for our student, but also for the university, we probably have always been in these silos. And I see it also at Erasmus. Every faculty is a silo, and within that silo, every department has its own groups, like the sociologists, the economists, and still in our daily life, working environment at the university, sometimes we struggle to explain even to our colleague what we do. So one of my colleagues that retired, he developed a sort of value-based approach methods that I think, and I experimented and experienced that while we are developing this new platform at Erasmus, where we try to break disciplines, break the way academia works, so do more transformative activist research. So I'm experiencing myself, and it's really important then to take the time also for us as academics to reflect and articulate our values, because once we can articulate them, also we are brokers. I mean, we are also trying to train students to be a cross-discipline, and I also don't feel I am just an economist or I am an urban researcher. I mean, I'm in this interdisciplinary, I like to work with stakeholders and industry. So I think we are also in this hybrid space that the student experience, but we can help each other, I think. So we need to take also the time to rethink what values are involved, how we can articulate them, why they are, for which stakeholders they may be relevant, and then engage in conversation with those stakeholders. So I also feel the responsibility for education to take a more active role in that respect. It's not just sending the student to do an internship or having, I don't know, job place, but really have this conversation with industry partners, policymakers, and together really understand and better frame those values that we want to change at the end, because we want to change behavior.
Petra, up to you.
Yeah, feeling the same, that usually I can't explain in one sentence what I do, or if I do it, like it's not completely what I do. So I think it comes also with like, I like this kind of intersections of different backgrounds. I think that also like the IAC and the Fab Lab Barcelona, like most of the people, none of them it's really architect, or at least they are supposed to be. And also the same applies for the textile designers. So for example, some students of Fab Academy, usually we have one or two who are educated in I know, pattern making or textile design, but at the end the rest of the students are bioengineers, graphic designers, biologist. For example, Anna, that she presented this morning, she's a biologist originally, but now she's working with the textiles. So I think this novel path or the new job position that they have been created, they kind of have to be fulfilled. So the people, they have to get trained for this kind of new positions to understand different softwares and the machines, like how to operate it. Because, and this, for example, you can understand only if you know a little bit about the pattern making, and you also know like how to use, for example, 3D modeling or softwares. Otherwise you won't be able to create like some new woven, digitally woven or 3D knitted textiles. So it comes together, and I think like these education systems or the trainings are very important for the students or for young people to learn, but also for the professionals or for industry to little bit to get better knowledge on what is actually happening or what is important to incorporate in the textile clothing industry.
So the lesson is, in the education world, you should break the silos, but between the industry and the education world itself, isn't there also a kind of silo effect, which maybe could be helped or destroyed rather, if the industry at large, the economic players, the brands, etc., were involved in the educational system and in the research system. For example, I was wondering this morning if coming to the issue of scaling, because beautiful inventions, beautiful innovations, but will they ever come to the market? It will take years because the industry has to take care of it. It's really an industrial problem, industrial issue. So to what extent is the industry needed to take part in this process? Petra, you've got the floor. Go on, please.
For the industry.
Yeah, the companies, the firms.
Yeah, so basically the idea of the transition project is that we work on 4 different strategic areas to implement this kind of methodologies in the local context. So for example, if we take the local context of Spain, in this we are Fabla Barcelona, that we are another design university that is more like a fashion department, and then we are collaborating with the MODAC, what is like a big network of local industries around Catalonia. And they are coming, for example, to the different classes or to different trainings to understand like what is it happening, what their students working on, and they are giving this extra knowledge about like how to scale the process up and what exactly we are supposed to do. So this is something what we are kind of missing. So we are trying to build this strategic relationship with them to find out the solution basically together. So there are different matchmaking events where we're going to take the students and they are going to meet the different partners around Barcelona. So we will find the best match or the best fit for them, like how to do it. So they should be basically there from the very beginning. It might look that it's not important, but actually it's a big step to understand how the process, instead of just coming at the end and see the final project, because there is a lot of steps to be done and usually the process is very complicated. So it would be nice to know also their feedback on this, like how to incorporate the more like a mechanical processes.
And it also helps the industry understanding the work that they do and the new words that have to be created to describe the jobs and the profiles. Rosie, would you like to go on? The industry involvement, I'm sure you take care of this.
Yeah, I mean, I think because I don't, I should say now, I don't teach on a program specifically. So I'm aware that the programs do have some live projects with industry, but my experience of industry involvement is always through research, and I suppose my reflection on this is that, you know, for example, given the presentations that we had this morning, we might reflect on, you know, how much involvement with the industrial partners in the research project would be beneficial, would be useful. But I see that in research, of course, it's hugely important. You know, you do need industrial partners in research because there's you know, an expectation, a need for this transition, the benefit of the research funding, and all the rest of it. But what happens in research, or certainly in the types of research projects that I've been involved in, is that the involvement in partners necessarily brings in limitations. And what I found in this project that we did with the students who presented this morning is that although HearWare is greatly sort of restricted in a sense by the partners who are involved, the students had a great freedom within this space. And I'm not saying that industrial involvement is not important at a certain time and place, but when the students are learning, I feel like there's a level of industrial involvement which is beneficial without going too far. Like they had access to it, they got to see what the industrial partners were doing and to kind of experience that. But the freedom and this is a rare opportunity for people to be able to play so openly and explore and and really kind of not feel too limited by industry. So I think there's a balance when it comes to formal education. Let the students have this playground opportunity, but certainly within research, and I suppose that's the delicate bridge that we've been trying to build between just enough of a real world scenario for the students to have a sense of it, but without restricting them too much. So I don't know if that answers.
Yeah, I understand. By the way, I understood this morning your expression, the playground for troublemakers. That's lovely. So you don't necessarily have troublemakers, Mariangela, but how do you feel with the involvement of the industry?
No, I completely agree with Rosie. I also believe, this is the last time in their life they have the freedom to try out, fail, change. And in that sense, I think we are providing them like a safer space where they can interact and really, really, really experiment. And so I agree that on one end, the industry collaboration, even from Bachelor 1 or in the Master, probably it's easier. But still, I would say to give the student the opportunity of choice. So some of them maybe really want and are eager already. Maybe they already have another master, or they come already with a company. So they would actually benefit from some programs. And we have now something in place with also the technical university. There is an incubator. So the student, if they want, they can have support from Center for Entrepreneurship. But there are also students that still want to do research and think and explore something alone or in teams, but not per se then, I don't know, develop a company or a startup. So I think we still have to give this sort of freedom of choice to the students, and maybe steer if there is a challenge that a company propose, I will propose them to my student, but we'll also have one topic that they are free to choose. So I try to balance. Maybe with bachelor students, you need to be more structured. With master students, they're able also to come up with their own idea.
Okay. I think we have to close this roundtable. It was extremely interesting to listen to you. Thank you very much for being with us in this TCBL Day. And we hope the audience has been interested also. Thank you for your attention. And many, many thanks to everybody. And thanks to Alex, who was watching over us. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you a lot.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.